Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live with Cami. This is Cami Wanis, the Freedom Scholar. If you are listening to this on our podcast, welcome to Homeschool Success with Cami Wanis. I'm so excited because today we're talking about schedules. We're talking about homeschool schedules that actually increase love of learning. Now, this is always a struggle for homeschool parents, especially we're at the beginning of the year. We've probably been homeschooling for a couple of weeks now at least, and so you've kind of got to test the waters a little bit. And it can be you either feeling, I we just can't get in our groove and we just can't figure out the schedule, or we're feeling like, oh, this is great. And maybe we can evaluate some of the things that we're doing and improve a little bit more, because there's a lot to consider when we're creating schedules. And it's really important to think about the message that we're sending with our schedules, especially our homeschool schedule. And let's just face it, homeschooling, as I always say, is learning through life, right? So it's really our whole entire life that is our homeschool schedule. And it's hard sometimes to take into consideration that we have lots of different areas that we're sending messages all the time through the way that we set up our routines and our schedules and our expectations. And that can either lower love of learning or it can increase it. Now, it's super easy if you're just getting started with homeschooling, or if you've been homeschooling for a while and you have sort of a box checking schedule, right? You have a box checking schedule, a box checking mentality. What do I mean by box checking? Well, box checking is basically what I call the educational should. It's that, like, I have to do math every day. We should be learning this at this age or this grade. We have to do, such and such, or we're going to fall behind. We have to, all of those ideas are box checking ideas, right? So we have a curriculum for math, we have a curriculum for social studies, we have a curriculum for science. And not to say that those are bad things, but it can really lead us into a low level of love of learning for our family. And so also having the mentality, box checking is the mentality of getting it done. Getting it done. Is anybody like that? Is anybody like that? The getting it done mentality? Like, we just need to get through this school stuff so we can get on with our day and get on with our life. That is a message that you're sending, that school, the important learning is stuff we just have. It's a game we have to play. I used to say that when I was teaching in high school. I was a high school English teacher, and I used to say that to my kids. High school is just a game. It's just a game you have to play. You have to get through it, right? And that is not sending the message about love of learning or becoming lifelong learners. You're not going to get lifelong learners that way. You're going to get, I just need a box to check. Just tell me what box to check. Just check it, and then we're done. Right. And a lot of us parents can think that way. It's really difficult, or that we're not doing enough. So we have to pound, 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 pound. How can they possibly? I saw this in a post yesterday, I think. How can we possibly be done with school in an hour? Oh my gosh. I don't know. That's not possible. They must not be learning enough. We got to add more. We got to supplement. We got to do something else. How can we learn all the things we're going to need to know in an hour, right? I know some of you have thought this. I know I've thought all of these things. And so the problem is that mentality actually lowers love of learning. And so when we're thinking about our homeschool schedules, we really have to think about, what message are we sending to our kids and to ourselves, really, right? About learning. You guys know my mantras. Homeschooling is learning through life, and learning happens everywhere all the time. Are you sending those messages? If you feel like you're a box checker, if you feel like, I've got these feelings going on, I've got this frustration, how can we be done in an hour? Oh my gosh, we have to get this stuff done so we can move on with our life. If you're in that space, message me, send me a message, comment below on YouTube or in Facebook here. If you're in our podcast or in any one of those places, you're going to have access to my free call that I offer to everyone. So please book a call and please, let's talk because you don't want to keep that going. If you keep that going, you're going to end up with a low level of learning. Things are going to be struggling. You're going to be frustrated, and you're not going to get the lifelong learner and leader that you're really looking for. You're going to get a follower. You're going to get somebody that's just saying, I just need a box. Give me a box so I can check it. And then we can be done. That's not really loving learning, is it? That's not loving learning. So message me, contact me, we'll figure you out. I got you, right? Okay. So what's the solution then? I mean, really, what do we do as parents? Because we're like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to create that balance, right? I don't know how to create that oh, what do we do to get that message sent? But then I also need to know what we're doing, and when we're doing it so I can plan my day, right? Well, that's the solution. Is every family has different needs, different situations, different schedule routines, and it's important for us to talk so that we can actually figure out what your specific needs are. However, there are a few things to think about that I'm going to talk about today. I want you to write these down. I want you to think about them a lot. Okay. And then when we talk, when we get on the phone and we talk, then we can really hash out what might be the right plan for you. Okay. So you want to think about three things. One is structure. We all crave it. We all want it, especially those of us that are like organized, those of us that really, if we are trying to plan anything in our day, then we have to have some sort of structure. Some of us love and crave structure so much that it's just like everything has to be structured. My son started doing this when he started creating his own weekly schedules. He just wanted to start creating them. It's because he owns his own education. And so he's like, I need a schedule so I can stick to make sure that I get done my 5 to 6 hours of study every day. Right now, he's in deep scholar phase. If you don't know what that means, it's basically like really deep learning high school phase. He's owned his own education. He has an extremely high level of love of learning, and he is a lifelong learner at this point. So even in his teenage years. So you want to think about structure. What kind of structure do you need? Well, it's a balance, right? We want to make sure that us parents are not going to lose our minds with no structure and things are just happening whenever or wherever. I'm a fairly organic kind of person, but I do like a little bit of structure. Okay, so we want to make sure that we have enough to know what's happening and when it's happening, and that everybody's on the same page. We all have the same expectations. And it's good for everybody. It's good for the kids. It's good for for us as parents, so we can actually plan other things, right? And it's great for kids who love routines. Some kids, especially kids, tend to have neurodivergent issues that a lot of them really love routines. So it's very good to have some structure, right? However, we want to really think about how much structure we have, because we don't want to have so much that we're feeling guilty if we don't follow our structure. And that's one of the things, one of the balances that we're working with my son right now, because at first he's getting a lot better. At first he started with like scheduling his every 5 minutes. And I was like, in the day, and I was like, buddy, we can't schedule every 5 minutes. That's just over the top. Like, you're going to end up like ruining it because you're going to be so disappointed that you're not following your 5 minute schedule. It's not how life works. So we had to get down to where he's planning maybe by the hour, right? And sometimes he just plans a weekly schedule in chunks of time. So it just depends, right? But we don't want to feel guilty that we're not following our plan or that we're not doing enough. And then we overdo it on days where the structure is really working, and we end up lowering love of learning because we're so rigid. We lower our own love of learning because we're so rigid, right? So, and also I've seen this too, you guys. I've seen so often where parents are saying, I say, oh, what did you guys do to celebrate 4th of July? 4th of July may not be a good example, but like, what did you do to celebrate like the coming of spring, or some holiday that like Flag Day, or I don't know. And They're like, "Oh, nothing. We don't have time for that." That's hard because you never have those little breaks where you can use those little special days, those little events to where you can increase love of learning. And if you don't have that because you're like, "No, no, we have to get through this by oh, I've scheduled how many pages we need to do for how many hours in the day for how many days a week and da 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 and we have to get it done or we'll fall behind." Do you see how that lowers level of learning? It puts the pressure on everyone. Plus, it's not sending the message that learning happens everywhere all the time. You're not sending that message. So, some structure is good, but you can really go overboard on that and really decrease love of learning. And it happens super easy. It happens super easy, especially with those of us parents who love structure and want to have organization. It can really happen really easily. So, it also, when you have too much structure, it doesn't allow kids to follow their passions or interests or rabbit trails. So it's really difficult for them to have what's in flexibility in a flexible schedule, which is freedom to learn. The freedom to learn. Now you can go, there's a whole range of freedom to learn here. There's a freedom to learn in a completely flexible schedule to where nothing's being planned and you just go on with the world. And that's real extreme unschooling. However, and some people are about that. And if that's you, more power to you. However, most of us aren't like that. And it becomes really difficult for us to plan our day. So we have to add a little bit of structure, but leave in enough flexibility so that we can follow the rabbit trails. The kids can really, I found this really interesting article about such and such and such. My son says I read and I watched a video and I read an article about AI and how it's going to affect our world. I'd like to write an article about that. Can I write my own article about that? Because I have a lot of things to say. And I was like, yeah, buddy. Of course. Of course you can write an article about that. Are you kidding me? Of course. Whatever we had planned for the day, out the window. I don't care. Write your article. That's huge. He wants to write it. Why would I kill that and say, "Oh no, not today, buddy. We got to do our 5 pages of math." Do you see what I'm saying? There's a balance that we have to get, and we want to have flexibility so that we can have less guilt. We can take the guilt train off, which is really the educational should. Isn't it the educational should that's causing the guilt? It's that guilt that like, "Oh, we're not doing enough. We need to do math every day or we're going to fail at life." This kind of stuff really, we have to get through the whole curriculum book. So we have to make sure that we do da 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 every single day. It is the educational should that's causing the guilt, right? And it's also our self-doubt, our limiting beliefs that cause that as well about what we're going to be able to provide for our kids to make sure that they're prepared to do what they want to do in the world, right? Well, guess what? If they don't love learning, if they don't become lifelong learners, they're just going to look for boxes to check throughout their whole life, unless they get new information and they change their worldview. But they're just going to look for boxes to check. And so there's going to be limited on what their ability is to do for the rest of their life because they're waiting for somebody to give them a box to check. So employee, they're gonna, be, looking for jobs that have boxes for them to check. What do I need to do? Okay, I'll get this done, right? They don't have the ability to reach out beyond that because they're always looking for boxes. And so it's important that, and I'm not saying that being an employee is a bad thing. It's absolutely necessary for a lot of things. So, but however the case, it closes the options. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So I want you to think about having the freedom to learn so that they can do the things. I can write an article about AI. He spent 5 hours, 5.5 hours that day writing. I had to stop him for dinner. It's unbelievable. And then he's gone back and he's rewritten and he's edited and he's rewritten and edited and published. And like, it's so fabulous. We've had discussion after discussion about it. It's so amazing. It really is. How much learning is in there, right? How much learning is in there? So it's really about the balance between structure and flexibility. And I know that's a hard thing because it's different for everybody, but we can think about a couple of things that can help us with that balance, okay? So we're going to think about a couple of things. So this is the third thing, is thinking about these questions. How much educational shoulding are you doing? How much educational shoulding are you doing on yourself and the kids? Just a question, right? Consider if your culture in your family, the culture of your family inspires love of learning. Does it inspire learning? So when your kids do have the freedom to learn, that flexibility time, that they're doing things that's rabbit trails, that's interest led, that's learning still. Maybe it doesn't even look like writing an article, watching a documentary. Maybe it looks like going out and exploring nature or something like that, depending on age and everything like that. But think about if your culture inspires love of learning, and then consider if your environment inspires love of learning. Your environment is so key. We for real have books in every single room of our house. My son is obsessed with books to the fact that it's a problem in our home about when is the appropriate time to read and when it's not, right? So it's really something that inspires learning. How does there's so many questions to go into that, but does the environment of your home inspire learning? If you need help with that, and this is a lot because it's like overwhelming, right? There's a lot to think about. If you need help with that, let's talk. Let's get on the phone. Let's see where you're at. Let's see where your thinking's at. Let's see where your culture and your environment's at. Let's see how much educational shooting you're doing. And let's see what's working and what's not. And then we'll help figure out a plan. I promise you, this is my joy in life. This is what I love to do. This is my mission in the world because I am about getting rid of the box checking. We have to check some boxes, mostly in high school. But other than that, and if you have state requirements that require you to check some boxes, you have to do that too. But I've found there's a lot of flexibility in there for some of y'all. Okay. So it's really about how can we work with the boxes that we have to do and allow for flexibility. Okay. Because I am on a mission to get rid of the format of the box checking so that it's our educational methodology in our mind and in our kids, and that we can actually raise lifelong learners. That is so important for the future of our society, the future of our world. We have to have these leaders that are passionate to go out and follow their rabbit trail. To follow that passion, to be prepared so that they can go out and solve the problems we need to be solved. This is so huge, you guys. It matters. It matters what your schedules are. I know it seems like a little thing just so we can have peace in our house and make ourselves feel good, but it matters to be intentional here. It really does. And this is exactly why I created the Raising Leaders Roadmap. You guys, the Raising Leaders Roadmap does exactly this. Specifically in schedules, we're talking about the Inspiring Lifelong Learning Program, which is part of the Raising Leaders Roadmap. In there, we talk about schedules, goals, we talk about routines, we talk about habits, and we talk about that flexibility and structure, and we nail it for you. We help you nail that so that you can raise those leaders that go out there and do what's necessary to solve the problems of the world today that they're passionate about, that they feel in their soul. You guys, you got this. I know you can do this. This is something that I feel super strongly about, and I just can't wait to chat with you about it. And I can't wait to talk with you and help you get on that right path. Okay, you guys, I will see you again next week. We're going to have some awesome guests coming up, and it is going to be an exciting month. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.